Welcome to Liv Label Free, the podcast, where we talk about all things eating disorder recovery, autism, entrepreneurship, and so much more. I'm your host, Livia Sarah, and my mission is to inspire individuals from across the globe to live a life in which they feel fulfilled and free from limiting labels. I am so excited to have you here and cannot wait to dive into the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Liv Label Free Podcast. If you haven't yet listened to my first intro episode, I tell you a bit more about myself and what you can expect here, so I recommend you start there if you are new here, and subscribe and follow this podcast wherever you are listening so that you never miss an episode. So today I am sharing a super exciting announcement, and you guys know that I am all about skipping the small talk and getting right to business. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to say it like it is. Everyone, Liv Label Free fam, people of the world, I am moving to sunny San Diego, California, baby, and you have no freaking idea how excited I am. Now, you guys are probably wondering, what the heck? This is such a big move and such a big shift, and you're autistic, and autistics have a hard time with change, so how are you excited for this? How are you going to do this? How is this all going to lay out? Well, that is what I'm going to tell you in this episode, how it all came to be, how I got this idea, when I'm moving, why I'm moving, where I'm moving from, how I'm going to do it all, what my action plan is, and I'm also going to share a not so fun experience that actually caused me to need to take a step back from social media for a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be juicy, it's going to be good, so turn up the volume, get yourself a nice drink. I have my ginger tea over here, and listen up because this is gonna be fun. So moving to San Diego is something that I have known for a while now, but I haven't yet shared it on social media because I'm all about keeping the Insta in Instagram. I remember a year ago when I was getting really serious about Liv Label Free and just really making it my career and just pursuing my passion of doing my dream job and just creating content and helping others as my job. I remember watching all these YouTube videos and podcasts about business, and all these people saying you have to create a content calendar and you have to plan all your content for months on end, and in the beginning of the year, you have to set huge goals and then divide them into quarterly goals, and you have to set up a launch strategy. And I mean, I tried, you guys. I tried. I really did try, but that's not the kind of person I am. I had planned out my content for a couple weeks in advance, and then I was 3 days in my so-called new content strategy, and I made oatmeal, and I was like, now I have to wait a month to post this oatmeal because it's not, because the recipe is not on my content plan. That is ridiculous. So I gave up that pretty quick, and I'm still trying to find out a balance between the whole planning and living in the moment, because I do definitely understand that when you do have a business, you can't really do everything whenever you feel like it. I completely understand that things have to be planned and you do have to do things in advance, and especially with this podcast, I'm still kind of learning that I'm going to be recording this, and there has to be enough time between me recording this and then editing it and then bringing it out to the world. So it also made me realize that whenever I listen to other podcasts and they say in 2 days my program doors are closing, I'm like, well, when they recorded this, it must have been more than 2 days, So I think it's always interesting that you totally get a new perspective and understanding of things when you actually do them yourself. But anyways, back to the moving, because I kind of got off on a tangent there. But I was originally going to wait with sharing this big moving news until I was actually in California. And I just wanted to be able to wait because I wanted to take a picture like on the beach or in a new apartment and be like, hey guys, I moved to California and now I'm here, so there's nothing anyone can say to me to change my mind because I'm already here. But something like really awful happened to me and my mom last week, and all of the thoughts kind of started pouring out, and just I didn't have words for it, but at the same time, like, I had so many words for it, and this is just something that I really wanted to share with you guys and how I'm getting through it, because the whole point of this podcast is that it is not curated, and I mentioned that in my first episode. And the whole point is that you get a real behind the scenes look into my life, and that I get the opportunity to share what's going on in the moment, so that you guys can really be part of the experience, because I know that I share a lot of good things on my Instagram, my YouTube, and on my blog about how happy I am and how well I'm doing, but I think it's so important as a consumer on social media, and I mean this goes for me too, that we are always comparing, we are constantly comparing with ourselves, even if we are unaware of it. But the moment you start looking at other people and other people's content, you will unconsciously compare. Like, it's human nature and there's nothing to do about it. So that's actually also why I had to take a step back from social media for a couple days, and I'll also be sharing why later on in the podcast when we get to this unfortunate event. But I think it's so important to just always be aware that you can't compare your own life to someone else's curated life. And I'm going to repeat that again because that is some pure gold, you guys. You cannot compare your life to someone else's curated life. Just let that sink in. Write it down on a post-it, write it down in your journal, put it into Canva and make a nice quote post out of it. Whatever you do, just make sure that it's in your brain, because that is something I definitely have been working on. Like I said, we all compare whether we want to or not, but once you become aware that you are comparing, so once you are aware of the compare, you can just be more cautious about how you let it impact your life. So, like I said, the podcast is a great opportunity to share more of my life in the moment, not curated, without feeling like I have to type up a whole Instagram caption that most people end up not even reading, because let's be real, everyone is busy these days. And that is why I am so freaking obsessed with podcasts, because you can listen to someone telling you about their life and telling you about things they've learned, and you can listen to smart people, and you can listen to people spreading wisdom and spreading their own life lessons while doing laundry or taking a walk or baking banana bread or whatever you like to do while you're listening to podcasts. And while we're at it, share this episode on your IG stories and tag me and tell me what you're doing while you're listening, because now I'm curious and I love to know what you guys are doing while you're having me in your ears and while you're listening to me share about my moving story. So I am sure that a lot of you are wondering, why the heck am I moving? Why am I moving to San Diego? And for those of you who are OGs in the Liv Label Free fam and know that I actually moved to my current apartment where I am sitting right now recording this less than a year ago, I wanted to answer any questions that I am sure a lot of you guys have. So if at the end of this episode you still want more details and you're like, you did not answer all my questions, Olivia, hit me up on Instagram and ask away, because I am an open book and I love sharing all my juicy life stuff with you guys. I mean, if I didn't, I would have not started a podcast. I started a podcast because I wanted to share more juicy life stuff with you guys, and Instagram captions just didn't allow for it. So I'll start at the top like I usually do and start by answering the question, when am I moving and where am I moving from? So I currently live in The Hague in the Netherlands, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a very small country in Europe next to Germany, and if you've been following me on Instagram for more than a year now, like I just said, I moved to my own apartment in October of last year. And you may be wondering why the Netherlands, like how did I even end up here? So that's kind of a long story, but I mean, we have time, so I'll just start again from the top. So I was actually born in the Netherlands, in The Hague, funny enough. And both of my parents are Dutch, so I am 100% Dutch. But when I was 6 months old, my mom got a job offer at Harvard University in Boston, Massachusetts. So when I was a baby, we moved, me and my mom and my dad. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. So we moved to Brookline, Boston, Massachusetts. And I grew up there until I was 15 years old. So as you can imagine, I feel more culturally embedded, I guess is the right word, in America, because I grew up there. And when you were 15 years old and you've basically built up your childhood life in a place, like I grew up playing soccer, gymnastics, all the sports. I was always someone who just loved going to school because I loved learning, and I had all my friends there, and I was in high school. I mean, when you're 15 and you're really starting to figure out your life, I guess, and something that I want to mention is that at the time I was very deep into my eating disorder. When you're at that age and you move to a completely new country where you know no one, and you don't have any friends, and you're just not really that familiar with the culture because you don't live there. Because I think we can all go somewhere and like get a taste of the culture by like tasting the food, but I mean, you don't really know what the culture of a place is like unless I feel like you've spent a considerable amount of time there or really lived there. So when I was 15, we moved to the Netherlands, and I'm now 21, as most of you guys know. So I've been living here for almost 6 years. Well, technically, I haven't been here for all of those 6 years because in 2017, I lived in the US for 6 months to have treatment for my eating disorder because I was basically sent away to die by the institutes here in the Netherlands. But that's a topic for another episode. So I was thrown into school here, and that's actually one of the main reasons why my family decided to move back to the Netherlands is because college tuition in the US is insane, and it's a lot more affordable here in Europe. I don't know how it is in other European countries, but at least in the Netherlands, it's a lot more affordable. So that is something I can definitely do an episode on if you guys are interested. So let me know on Instagram, send me a DM if you want to know more. Again, like I said, if you have questions, I'm an open book and I'm always happy to answer. So anyways, now that my school is finished, I actually am officially done with all of my exams as of last week. I am a free woman and I can do and go wherever I want. So why am I choosing to move to the US and not stay in the Netherlands is probably a very big question. And that is honestly, like I said, because I grew up in the US and the US feels more like home to me than the Netherlands. And I know this might sound really weird, but ever since we moved here like 6 years ago, I still, even though I have my own apartment and we've been living here for like over 5 years, I still feel like this is some sort of super long vacation that has yet to end. And I know that sounds crazy, but like I just don't feel at home here, and that's just one of those feelings that you can't really describe. Like when you go home, like you know you're home. Like that's just that soul feeling that you have of this is what it feels like to be home. This is what it feels like to be safe. And I just have never had that here. And I think just not really being ingrained in the culture definitely has an impact, and just not having a lot of friends here also has an impact. But I think what also really has an impact is that most of my community, like on social media, is based in the US, and a lot of brands actually in the US do reach out to me more, like way more than Dutch brands do, just because a lot of people are very surprised when I tell them that I don't actually live in the US, because I know I kind of present it that way, but I guess that's because being American is just part of my identity. And for any of you wondering, I actually do have dual citizenship, so I am Dutch and American. So if any of you guys are worrying about the logistics, I do have a US passport. But I wanted to talk about like the entrepreneurial business side of why moving to the US is just way better for my business. And that's because the Netherlands is very old-fashioned, and it's super, super hard to get brand deals here because of that culture, because of that kind of old-fashioned culture. I realized here when I did reach out to brands, it was often just a lot of like, the expectation was often like product for post, or post for product, or whatever. And I mean, I get that when you're like just starting out, but the point where I'm at, whereas this is my full-time job and this is my business, and some granola is not going to pay my rent, like I had to start being real and telling these people like, no, this is my job and I have rates, and I'm telling you, like 95% of the time I was just told like, oh, well, we don't have budget or whatever. And okay, fine, but then don't go out and expect influencers to promote stuff for you if you're not even willing to pay them for their hard work. And something just really, really painful for me, and I know that painful may be the wrong word, but just kind of like, yeah, painful, I guess, is that I was getting a lot of emails from US based brands because they thought I lived in the US about potential collaborations and about potential partnerships and brands that did have budget, because I do only work in that way. And then as soon as I would tell them like, yeah, would it be okay to send the products internationally, the whole partnership was just like cut off, and there went another opportunity to just build my business and support myself. So I have to work super hard here to just kind of support myself, and I'm just really done with the direct and cold Dutch culture, and also the judgment. I mean, in the US, you can wear whatever the heck you want. Like, if you go to the grocery store in your pajamas, no one even cares because other people are doing it too. But if you go to the grocery store here and are just wearing one sock that's not matching, like, I swear, people will just, like, stare at you as if you're some sort of lunatic. And I don't like that because, as you know, I'm all about being label free, and I'm all about living a life that you want to live in the way that you want to live it. And if you constantly feel like you're being judged by who you are as a person, like, that's just toxic and negative energy that I don't want to deal with. So that's the main reason why I want to move back to the US, because it just feels like more like home to me. And for the long-term vision of Liv Label Free as a brand, I know it's just going to be so much better for me, both mentally, physically, entrepreneurially. I don't even know if that's a word, but you know, all the things. So if I could have, like, aside from school, I would have made plans to move to the US sooner, but as we all know, 2020 was a shit show, and I was not about to make a big international move in the middle of a pandemic. And so I'm just very excited that after all this anticipation and now just being done with school and just really having persisted with that, being able to look forward to this huge step is just so incredibly exciting for me. So I will be moving in September of 2021. So when this episode goes live, I think that's like 2 months, because like July, August, September, yeah, that's like 2.5 months. And it's actually perfect because my 12-month contract here in The Hague actually ends as of October 1st. So I will be moving in mid-September. But before I do officially move, I will actually be traveling to San Diego from mid-July to mid-August 1st. So very, very soon, in 2 weeks from the airing date of this episode, I believe. And I'm so excited because this trip will serve two roles. Is number one being that I need a vacation. Like, I need a vacation, and I honestly think we all do, with the horrible lockdown of the past more than a year now. But the main reason that I am going first to San Diego for a month is to orient myself and find an official place to stay, because I actually have never been to San Diego before. So you guys are probably wondering why the heck I'm moving there, and honestly, it's a gut feeling I have, and I have learned over the years with my whole eating disorder journey and the autism and just everything, that when I listen to my gut and when I follow my intuition, good things happen. Every single time that I have not listened to my gut or not followed my intuition because I started overthinking things, or I thought, oh, maybe my gut is wrong this time, something bad always happens. And I know the word bad is super subjective, but I mean, things turned out in the way that I didn't want them to. And the reason that I'm not moving to Boston, and why San Diego specifically, is because I want to live in a place where it's always sunny and where it's always nice weather. Because if you follow me on Instagram, you know that this past winter was especially very hard for me due to the lockdown. But I am someone who just is so affected by the weather. And I think this is due to my hypersensitivity as an autistic person. But I get so depressed when it's like rainy out and cold out, because you can just not do anything. And San Diego is just always nice weather. It's like always sunny, and I'm sure it rains there too, but I just need some endless summer, and I don't want to have to like deal with the changing of the seasons, because as an autistic person, I do dislike change, and if you have to be like changing your wardrobe every quarter of the year, it's just annoying. So now I actually do want to shift gears a bit and talk about my action plan and where I'm staying and how this is all going to become a reality. And this is also where the not so fun part comes in, and the part where I tell you why I had to take a step back from social media. So a couple months ago, when I decided like it was official and I had booked my trip to San Diego, and if you follow me on Instagram and see my stories, you know that I booked the return trip, which is this coming up month trip. So I started looking on Airbnb, as most people will, who are looking for a longer term stay. I quickly learned that San Diego is super expensive, and especially if you are finding a place on Airbnb, you have to pay so many fees when it comes to just staying there for like a month, for example. Like if you find a place for like $2,000, the fees are like, all of the fees combined were like almost $1,000 extra, and I just found that so insane. So I started looking for alternative places to stay, because first I was only going to stay for 3 weeks, but I actually rebooked my flight 2 weeks ago and extended it a week so that I would stay for a month, because I started figuring out that I could rent an apartment for a month and just kind of have like a short-term lease kind of thing, and that ultimately would be much cheaper than staying at like a hotel or staying at an Airbnb. But even with Airbnb, if you do stay for a month, you often do get a monthly discount, which is ultimately a lot higher than, say, just like a small weekly discount. So I tried to find alternatives to Airbnb, and first I was kind of looking into the like short-term lease, like rental things, and like trying to figure out things with like rental properties and like real estate companies and that kind of stuff. But you know how Google works, like when you click on something and it says that it's gonna be that, but then in the small print at the bottom it's like minimum lease 6 months. So I was like, nope. So then I started looking on Craigslist, and for those of you who don't know what Craigslist is, it's kind of like eBay, or just kind of like a online second-hand place, I guess, where, say, for example, you wanted a blender, but you didn't want to pay the full new price. And this is so me thinking of a blender as a first example, and I'm honestly only thinking of that because I know that I'm going to be needing a new blender when I move, because I obviously cannot bring my European voltage Vitamix to the US. So I actually started looking on Craigslist, and I found a couple places on there, but you always have to be super, super careful with Craigslist, just like with anything else that isn't really done through a secured website or secured company, because people are scammy on there. Like, I actually remember 10 years ago when we were living in Brookline, which is like right outside of Boston. We were selling a laptop. I was selling my old laptop, and there was this guy who messaged me on eBay, and he was saying like, yes, I want to buy a laptop, and it was kind of like weird, but he sent this like weird PayPal email, like, so to make it look like it was from PayPal, and he sent the email, and it was saying in the PayPal email, like, you have to send the laptop first, and you have to upload the tracking info, and then once PayPal has like confirmed that the laptop has been received, then the funds will get released into your PayPal account. Well, anyone who has just like minor knowledge of the way that PayPal and eBay works knows that that's not how it works, that the payment always is before you ship the product. So we quickly figured out, oh yeah, and by the way, the address to which we had to send the laptop was in Nigeria. So that was already super weird. So we looked up 10 years ago, Nigerian eBay scam or something, and apparently it's like very, very common. Like, there were all these threads on Reddit and Quora and on like websites saying, beware of the Nigerian eBay scam, because they will try to take your electronics so that they will then resell them and ultimately get money that you never got. So ever since, we've always made jokes about this like Nigerian eBay scam thing, and that we would never fall into something like that. But here's where the not so fun part comes, and that is something that actually happened to me now for the first time. So let me just back up and tell you the story. So I found a place on Craigslist, and I had first found like 5 different apartments, and I had emailed the people, and the first like 4, well, one of them was like okay, but it was like they had changed their price or something, so I ended up not going with them. But then there were like 3 or 4 places that I either didn't get a response from, or it was just like kind of sketchy. And I have learned my lesson that when things are sketchy, just don't do it, because if they're sketchy, the chances are that they are sketchy. And that's, again, one of those things where I just really have to follow my gut instinct, and if it doesn't feel like a hell yes, like, then it's a hell no. But then there was this one that the email was actually signed off by a real estate agent. Fred Gardner was his name, which I guess anyone could be named that. But anyways, I looked up this guy on Google, and I looked up his LinkedIn and everything, and they even had a website, so it was all super, super legit. And this guy was like listed on all of these like real estate agent sites in San Diego, like in that area, in Southern California. So I was like, okay, this is really real. And the apartment, the address was recently sold in September of 2020, so it's, I mean, super realistic for someone to buy an apartment and then like try and rent it out to just make some extra money. Like, totally legit. My mom does that too with her place on Airbnb. So everything was super legit. Like, it was neat English and everything. And they sent contracts and everything that we signed, and they offered me a 1-month lease. So we signed all the papers, and when I say we, I mean me and my mom, because obviously I wasn't doing this all on my own. And everything seemed awesome and real, and the guy always sent quick responses. But the only thing that was kind of off is that my mom did try to call this Fred Gardner twice, and he didn't pick up. And she heard a voicemail, and the voicemail was just like an English accent, like saying, "Hey, I'm Fred Gardner, and I can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message," whatever, you know, the typical voicemail thing. But we were just like, okay, he's probably busy. Like, this real estate agent probably has other things to do. I don't know. But then when we were finishing up the payment, and I kept getting messages from this Fred Gardner guy quote-unquote Fred Gardner that was saying, as soon as we receive the payment, I will send you a payment receipt ASAP. So we sent the payment, and on and off, like every day, this guy was answering my emails pretty quickly. So we sent the payment, and I said, hey, can you confirm that you received the payment? And he said, yes, we received it, thank you. And then I said, can you send me the payment receipt? And then for 4 days, I didn't hear anything, and every day I kept sending a follow-up email saying, like, can you please send me the receipt? And nothing, just silence, crickets chirping. So my mom called the Fred Gardner number again, and this time it didn't go to voicemail, and someone actually picked up, but it wasn't Fred Gardner, or whoever Fred Gardner is, or whoever this guy with an English accent is that was on the voicemail, but it was some guy with an African accent saying that he was from Nigeria eventually. And so my mom called me the next day saying, Livia, I'm so sorry, but I think we've been scammed. And I mean, after not hearing any response from this guy after he got the money, like, I knew myself that this was probably the case, but I mean, I'm sure you can all relate that when something bad happens, but it's not like confirmed yet, you don't want to believe that it has happened, if that makes sense. So I knew that it was probably the case that it was a scam, but it all was just so good, and I had an apartment, and it was a beautiful apartment in San Diego in a good location, and we signed the contract and the papers, and it went all so easy. So I was like, no, this can't be. But when she told me that on the phone, like, Livia, I think we've been scammed, like, I called the guy, and it was just some random guy from Nigeria whose name is not even Fred Gardner, and the website is all fake too. And I'm telling you guys, this website, it looked freaking legit. Like, they had over like 30 apartment listings on there. So they put literally so much time and effort into just trying to scam people. Like, it's disgusting, honestly, in my opinion. But anyways, I was calling with my mom the other day, and something she said was, I can't believe it, how could we be so stupid? And then I told her, Mom, we are not stupid. Like, if we were stupid, we would go on Craigslist again and find another apartment and pay them and sign contracts and literally be scammed again. Like, that would be stupid. But we're choosing to learn from this, and this is kind of where I want to take this podcast. It's like, the point of this podcast is not to pity myself and tell you guys how awful it is that I've lost all this money, because I mean, it is awful. Like, I'm not saying it's not, but that's not the reason I'm sharing this with you guys. The reason I'm sharing this is because this for me was a huge life lesson, and it taught me that you always have two choices in life. And one of my favorite things to always say, and I've said this on my Instagram before, and I've written this on my blog before, and that is that you can always choose to be a victim, or you can choose to be a creator. So again, I'm going to repeat that. You can always choose to be a victim, or you can choose to be a creator. And saying, like, I can't believe this happened, like, now I'm just going to lay on my bed all day and be sad and cry about it and cancel my trip because I've spent up my maximum budget that I had, that would be being a victim. And honestly, that would literally be giving this Nigerian scammer guy the power to ruin my trip. But I wasn't about to let that happen. Like, this sounds kind of extreme, but I told my mom, like, 5 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever, I almost died to an eating disorder. And that, I survived that, and I got through that. And if it weren't for me having my eating disorder and going through 7 years of hell, only to realize that that wasn't the life I wanted to live, and that I knew there was so much more to life. If it weren't for all of that, I would not be where I am today. I would not have my blog, I would not have my Instagram, I would not be able to do the work that I do and love every single day and help so many other people that struggle with the same thing now. And that is what I mean when I decided I was no longer going to be a victim. and I decided I was going to be a creator. I was done being a victim and living enslaved to an eating disorder, and I decided I was going to create a life that I did love, and that is the life I am currently living and building. And it's because of that decision that I was going to be a creator that I am now moving to San Diego and have so many dreams and passions that I am pursuing as we speak. And yeah, it sucks that I lost all this money now and had to find a new place that was like even more money, and now I've lost all this money due to just staying in San Diego for 1 month. But I also realized that it is just money, and I know that's super privileged of me to be able to say that as someone who does have money and doesn't have to worry about where my next meal is going to come from, but money can always be earned back. The thing for me that was more sad and just really just hurt me the most was this realization that you have to be so careful with who you can trust these days, and that there are horrible people in the world that will do anything just to take from you. I mean, the amount of work I had to do, the amount of partnerships I had to do, the amount of coaching I had to do to earn that money that is now in the hands of some random guy that scammed me, like, that hurts me so much, because I'm here doing such hard work and trying to help people to be the best version of themselves and live a label-free life, and that all my hard-earned work can just be lost just like that. But even that, I want to rephrase that, like, my hard-earned work isn't lost, because again, it's just that money that is lost, and that money, I need to trust that I can earn that back. And I do trust that I can earn that back. And my mom was telling me on the phone, like, maybe you should cancel your trip. But I was like, no fucking way am I canceling my trip. If I would cancel my trip, that would be being a victim. That would be me being scared to face my fears and do the unknown. And that would be me being scared of not having certainty. But like I said in the first episode, you never have certainty, and there will always be things that are scary. But if you let your fears stand in the way of you doing new things and chasing your dreams, you'll never end up doing the things you love. So I guess where I want to kind of bring this whole story full circle and give you a life lesson and end this podcast on a really positive note is that this whole event, I see it as a learning experience. Like, it sucks, again, like I said, but I'm choosing to learn from it, and I'm choosing to use it as an experience to take a step back and really look at what really does matter. Because seeing how one person can just do such awful things, and I mean, this isn't even the worst of it. Like, getting scammed on Craigslist is not even the worst of the world's problems. Like, there's way more horrible things going on. So this really allowed me to put my priorities into perspective, and it was actually this very event that allowed me to take a long overdue break from social media, because I really have been overworking myself, just never allowing myself to just take a step back and rest. And if I did, it was only for very short, and I would just feel super guilty about it if I didn't have like next day's Instagram post all planned out, or some new video on YouTube going out, or some new helpful blog post coming out. And don't get me wrong, I love what I do. Like, you guys seriously have no idea how much I love helping you guys, answering your questions, being there for you, and providing so much value that I know is helping so many people. But this is really one of those times where I have to kind of pray what I preach. I think that's the right way you say it. And follow my own advice. And that is that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Like, if you're constantly giving and giving and giving, and you're not taking time to recharge, you will burn out. And that is something I have been feeling for the past couple months, and especially past couple weeks. It's just this very strong feeling of burnout and just feeling like my tank is empty. So last week I was going to post some reels because I had filmed some super fun reels of me on Sunday or Saturday. Then when my mom called me on Sunday, kind of confirming the whole scam thing, I felt such a pain in my heart, and I couldn't even bear to smile in real life. So I just could not bring myself to show up on social media as the person I wanted to be, because that person would have been fake. And my goal was always to be authentic with you guys and to be real with you guys. So if I can't even be like happy in real life or show up as the person I want to be in real life, how could I expect myself to do that on social media? So if there's anything I took away from this, is that I learned that I was doing too much and I have to be careful, and it was a drop in the bucket that allowed me to take a step back. So I think that's how I'm going to end this episode, is leaving you with the message that you can always choose to be a creator or a victim, and you always have a choice when it comes to how you view a certain situation. You can always view a situation as something that is negative and it happens to you and now you're screwed, or you can look at it as, this happened for me and this allowed me to learn and grow and become a better person. Because I promise you, when you start to look at life that second way and look at things in a positive light and say that things happen for you instead of to you, your life will get a lot better and you will be a much happier person, and you will feel more grateful for the experiences you have. No matter how much they suck, you will feel grateful, and gratitude really is a mindset that ultimately leads to happiness. So I hope that with this whole story, I inspired you to maybe look at a current situation you're struggling with in a different way, and maybe put it in a different light and kind of switch your perspective, because ultimately that's what I'm here for. So if you did enjoy this episode and have been enjoying this podcast so far, or are excited to hear more episodes, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and it would mean so much to me if you could leave a rate and review on iTunes, as that really helps push my podcast out and it allows more people to hear my story and spread my message. So thank you so much for listening to another episode, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye!